Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford on the Business Forum Show, and we're going to talk about leadership today and whether leadership actually comes from nature, what we're born with, or whether leadership comes from nurturing, the things that we spend time around, whether it be our education, our experience, ways we're mentored, the environment we live in, and all that sort of thing. So, Dave, you have some thoughts on the natural side of leadership. So, what are some of the attributes that do come from somebody that's genetic, the way we're born?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, you're born with some general skill set, whatever that is, and there's no one. If you have these three things, for the most part, you're a good leader. Mm-hmm. The primary thing that denotes good leaders from bad leaders is you really take ownership for your situation. You understand where you're at. You understand how you've gotten there. You understand what you need to do to change to be better, and you don't blame everybody else. That's really the number one thing that has to happen. In order for you to be a good leader, you have to understand that wherever you're at, whatever is going on, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. Whether good or bad, it's your fault. I mean, just a really simple example. On my way over here this morning, I was at a stoplight behind a car. The light turned green. I'm sitting there. We're not moving because the car in front of me isn't moving. So I just do a real quick 1, 2, 3. We're not moving yet. So I just real quick little beep on the horn. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then she flips me off. So, okay. Does she take ownership for the fact that she's not paying attention? No. The fact that she's not paying attention to her driving to the road, to anything that's going on around her, is now my fault. Mm-hmm. Okay? That is not somebody that has capacity to be a successful leader. I don't really need to know a lot more about that person to know whether or not they have capacity to be a successful leader than just that simple response. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. If somebody, the light turns green and you don't move immediately and somebody's laying on the horn behind you, that's a lot different than the light turned green. We're sitting here. I'm counting, and I just go beep, just a real quick little nothing noise, and your response is to flip me. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Take ownership for your situation.
She's probably sitting there texting or doing whatever.
She very well may have been. She may have been on the phone. She may have been texting. She may have been doing lots of things. She clearly wasn't paying attention. Mm-hmm. And rather than take ownership to the fact she wasn't paying attention, she wants to make excuses. She wants to make it my fault. She wants to blame it on me. Mm-hmm. That's the challenge. You'll look at now in the economy. Lots of bad things have happened in the economy. You get somebody's losing their house. Okay, lots of people have lost their houses in the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Sure,
they've gone into foreclosure. Right, there is a certain percentage that have lost the house and come out of it successfully. There is a certain percentage that decided that it was the bank's fault they lost their house and drove a forklift through it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had done some looking at houses, short sale houses, and there was lots of real estate agents initially that wouldn't touch wouldn't touch a bank-owned house because you never knew what you were going to expect walking into it. Mm-hmm. To where you walk into it, all the drawers are missing, all the hardware off of the cupboards are missing, just all kinds of ridiculous stuff. Light fixtures, everything. Yeah. They're. I walked in, I'm like, why did you take the drawers? Well, because the real estate agent's assumption is, well, they were moving, and rather than bother to pack anything up, they just left everything in the drawers and took all the drawers. Mm-hmm. So the kitchen was empty. There were no drawers in the kitchen; they were all gone. Punching holes in the wall, doing all that kind of stuff. So anybody that does that is blaming everything else around them on their situation except for themselves. Mm-hmm. They're not taking ownership for that situation. Mm-hmm. So again, I can look at that very simply and go, this person does not have the capacity to be a strong leader, because who would follow that? Mm-hmm. Now, exactly. There can be bad people that people will follow. Okay, I mean, Hitler's a bad person, but he was a really good leader. He was really effective at leading people. Now, he had led them down the wrong direction, but he took ownership for everything that he had around him. I'm going to do this, and he did a lot of nasty things, mm-hmm. but he was able to get people to follow him. Mm-hmm. generally speaking, if you make all kinds of excuses and you want to blame everybody else, nobody wants to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what leading is all about.
You know, that's actually a really interesting point when you mention about Hitler, because I actually read an article about one of the last living people that he had. It was a personal bodyguard who actually lived around him.
Yep.
And his bodyguard wrote it was a pretty lengthy story and had all this great loving admiration for this man that the rest of the world has clearly condemned.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it was absolutely amazing that he had so many passionate and good things to say about this guy. He's just a regular person like you or I. And most people would say, oh, no, he wasn't.
He had a cause that he truly believed in. Was he off in how he went about it? Absolutely he was. But he had a cause he truly believed in, and because he believed so strongly in that, and because he had a lot of the other skills that are necessary to be effective, people followed him.
Mm-hmm. And how much easier then to use great leadership skills and lead people in a good direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because you can imagine. I mean, obviously he was successful in what he was trying to accomplish in terms of being a leader. But think of that being a good cause, and how many people fell off the bandwagon because they at some point said, "Wait a minute, you're going in the wrong direction."
Being a really strong leader can be having that ability can be like having a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
You can either use it for bad or for good.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
And there is some innate, some people are born with some natural tendencies to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and some people they're not born with natural tendency to lead. That doesn't mean they're not going to be a leader, and that doesn't mean somebody that is born with natural tendencies is going to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that have to be developed over time in order for you to continually do that, and it's all about taking that ownership and understanding that wherever you are today is your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be something different, what do you have to do differently? What do you have to learn? What do you have to learn about yourself? The one thing that I'll say about leadership, and I've had somebody, well, how do you know when you're being an effective manager or an effective leader? Well, here's when you know when you're not.
Mm-hmm.
When you think you are, you no longer are. When you think you're a good leader, when you think you're a good manager, you no longer are.
Mm-hmm. One of my other really favorite litmus tests as well, in conjunction with that, and I agree with that 100%. One that I used to also share with people too is that whether you are a military leader or in a owner of a business or just a manager in a business or a supervisor of a department or whatever, but if you had to use your positional power more than 5% of the time to get people to do what needed to be done,
correct,
you're also ineffective as a leader.
Absolutely. And some people think just, I'm now the manager. That means I'm no.
Yeah, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
Therefore, I get to say, and it goes.
That doesn't mean you're the leader. Okay, you become a leader by effectively. If you think you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just going for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, pure and simple. You're not doing anything else because nobody's behind you. Nobody's following you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's all about, is leading. People follow you. People want to be like you. People want to be around you. Mm-hmm. People respect you for what you're doing and your beliefs, and they don't question that. They say, where do I sign on?
Mm-hmm.
And let's go.
So let's visit a little bit about some of the personality traits, because personality traits do come from the natural side of a person. And we've had a lot of conversation about DISC and DISC profiles on this show.
Yep.
And what types of people on this DISC profile tend to be business people.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a general rule of thumb. And I think about, like, even in my own family, I grew up with 6 brothers and a sister. There was 8 of us in the household. And obviously the same parents and same type of environment and whatnot that we had for the most part. But yet, 8 very different kind of people came out of that household. So
absolutely.
You're going, okay, so we all had the own environment. So there is a certain amount of natural, our natural part of who we are as individuals that comes to bearing. So when we look at who leaders typically are, and when I say typically, I say it a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because there's actually 2 business leaders that I'm visiting with this week, that one of which is a very outgoing guy, has a $200 million company. Mm-hmm. One is a very introverted lady who's running a $400 million company.
Yep.
So you're going, okay, so if there was a rule of thumb here, why are these 2 people so different? But yet there are things, though, that you can kind of look at and say, well, most of the business people tend to have these kind of personality traits. What would they be?
Well, see, that's the thing. If one of my favorite books, and it's one of the big learnings I've had around leadership, if you want to know about leadership and want to be a good leader, first thing you need to do is pick up the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we come back from break, I'm going to go through a little bit kind of how that breaks out.
So the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell.
Best leadership book you can find.
Fabulous. We'll have more conversation about that here in just a moment on the Business Forum Show. We're talking about leadership. And is it natural, or is it something that's nurtured in you by your education, experience, and mentorship? And by the way, we'll have more conversation even about the educational side and what influences it has on leadership as well. Again, Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford on the Business Forum Show. Back in a moment. Stay tuned.